Jake. We've just been goofing off the last couple days, riding around, playing a little basketball, skipping stones at the creek. We even did little kid stuff at the park swing, seesaw. At one point, I found myself standing at the bottom of the sliding board ladder. I was third in line, staring down at the head tops of two little preschool runts. That's how bad summer can get. You wonder why you were so thrilled back on the first day. Boring, said Burke. That's the last sliding board line I'll ever stand in my life. If I live to be 1,000, I said. I miss Bump, said Burke. I miss Soup, said Nacho. You know what we are? I said. What? Said Nacho. Goober addicts. Lily. How about origami? Said Poppy. What's origami? Folding paper. You make things, birds, boats, almost anything. I saw kids doing it all over Japan. I make great paper airplanes, I said. We went to the library for a book on origami. Jake. So without Bump, we rode over to Soup's. He wasn't there working on the shack. We were surprised, but maybe we shouldn't have been. We usually ride over in the morning, but this was afternoon. We were ready to push off when we heard a voice calling, Hi, boys! At first, we didn't know where it was coming from. Then we saw a face sticking out of a second floor window. A lady. Had to be his mother. Hold on there a minute, boy, she said. I'll be right down. Uh-oh, said Burke. She knows. Knows what? I said. Who's been messing up the shack? Said Burke. Yeah, Bump. Yeah, Bump, said Nacho. We're in the clear. I don't feel in the clear, I said. And then there she was, bouncing out the front door and across the porch and down the steps. She charged straight for us like a fullback. I wished we had cleared out. Her arm was coming up. I got ready to duck. I started to say bump. I never got to say did it because a massive grin broke across her face. And that was no fist on the end of her arm, but a hand to shake. He must be, let me guess, Jake? She acted all proud of herself when I grunted and shook her hand. She got Burke and Nacho right too. She laughed out loud. Ha ha! Nacho, I love it. I always wished I had a cool nickname. She stepped back. I'm Heather, Ernie's mom. My memory is kind of fuzzy on some of this, probably because it was one of the uncomfortablest times of my life. I mean, everybody knows how to deal with a goober, but how about a goober's mom? There's no manual for that. Mrs. Goober took another step back, as if to get us all in the picture. So, she said, and just grinned away. Here it comes, I thought. So you're the hoodlums that have been terrorizing my son. She had short, curly brown hair, and hoop earrings you could spit through, and a t-shirt that said, I break for turtles. At last, she went on. Finally, I get to meet you. I see you coming by all the time, talking to Ernie. Sometimes I've been tempted to come out and say hello, but I see you guys laughing and having a good time, and I say, nah, stay out of their business. Was it right, guys? We glanced at each other. How are you supposed to answer that? She laughed. I retract the question. She looked back over her shoulder at the paint-splashed, lopsided shack. She's a beauty, huh? Burke and I just nodded, but Nacho piped, Absolutely. She shot a look at Nacho, and her cheeks bulged, and her lips quivered, and a laugh just barfed out. She couldn't hold it in, and I knew that in her howling laughter that she was telling us that she knew that we knew it was the most ridiculous-looking building in the history of mankind. She wiped her eyes. Well, Wednesday is your pal Ernie's art lesson day, so I guess you're stuck with me. She looked over. She looked us over again, giving us a grin that seemed like a secret behind a zipper. I know. You just want to get out of here, escape the old lady. She gave a big dramatic shrug. Sorry, guys. She waved and headed for the house. Come on in. We stayed. She turned. The grin was gone. I said, come in. We parked our bikes and followed her into the house. She led us to the kitchen. She gave us lemonade to drink. We don't believe in soda, dudes. And food. Oatmeal cookies, brownies, carrot sticks, onion dip, blue corn chips. Sorry, no nachos, Nacho. She giggled for a whole minute over that one. She asked a lot of questions. She wanted to know everything about us, like she was writing a book or something. I don't mean she was grilling us. It was all friendly. She seemed so interested, nodding her head and saying, Really? And is that so? The more she nodded, the more we talked. I found out stuff about Nacho and Burke I never knew. And when Burke pointed to me and said, He's a twin, and Nacho said, His twin is a sister, she went bonkers. Wow, Jake, no kidding. I always thought it would be so cool to have a twin. What's it like? Before I could answer, she said, Never mind, dumb question. Way too broad. Okay, what's her name? Whose name? I said. That really cracked her up. I think she thought I was trying to be a comic. Your twin sister, she said. Lily, I said. Lily. She smiled. She repeated it, like she was tasting it. Lily. The smile got dreamy. Jake and Lily. She took a while to just digest that. Then, okay, so tell me, is it true about twins? Like, you almost know what each other is thinking? Stuff like that? Suddenly, everybody was looking at me. What could I say? How could I put into words for her something that we could never put into words for ourselves? Unless you count Goombla. But more than that, her question smacked me up against something that's been there for a while. I guess I just never really looked. It's not that way anymore. I suddenly realized how long it's been since I knew what my sister's been writing in her journal chapters. I remember the fights with her, trying to tell her to chill out, and we're just growing up, that's all. Mrs. G was tilting, smiling at me. She laid her hand on mine. Forget it, Jake. Some things can't be put into words, right? I looked at her. Something inside me said, thank you. I nodded. She took it easy on me from then on, and it was pretty okay. I kept thinking, I'm in a super goober's house. But when I looked around the place, it looked like mine. Somewhere along the line, it occurred to me that I wasn't uncomfortable anymore. At the last second, as we walked out the door, I remembered to say, thank you. Then the other guys did too. She stood at the door. She waved at us as we peeled off. We didn't go back to the hideout. We didn't talk. We just rode around from one end of town to the other and back. I know we were all thinking it, but nobody was saying it. Finally, Nacho did. First goober mother I ever met. She was pretty cool, I said. She called us dudes, said Burke. We rode we rode some more, then split and went home to our dinners. Lily. I stink at origami. Whatever I tried to make came out looking like a giraffe in a bathtub. Poppy thought about it. He snapped his fingers. How about this? Flowers. You like flowers, don't you? I don't know, I said. I don't think about them. Everybody likes flowers, he said. You're going to help me landscape the backyard. Come on. So we went to a garden shop and came back with a bunch of plants and flowers and a pair of trowels. He told me maybe I'm a green thumb and just don't know it. Well, what's a green thumb? I said. I looked at my thumb. Somebody who's good with plants, he said. Green thumbs can make anything grow. As soon as we went out the back door, I knew I was in trouble. A dog was barking. It was in the next door backyard. A big black dog, sticking its nose through one of the diamond-shaped spaces in the chain-link fence and barking. I don't mean a nice regular doggy woof woof bark. I mean a loud, nasty, growly bark. The kind of bark that's so powerful it makes the dog's head flop up and down. A bark that's super excited, but not in a puppy happy to see you way. Super excited because he can't wait to sink his teeth into you and rip out a vital organ. No way, I said. I stepped back behind the screen door. My grandfather laughed. He just barks. He's a big baby, look. He went to the fence. The dog went even crazier. Poppy! I yelled. But Poppy was reaching over the fence and noodling the black ears, and the beast was licking his hand. It's me, I called. Dogs hate me. They know I'm scared. Poppy came back and took my hand. He didn't try to drag me out. He would never force me. He just said, quiet and smiling, looking into my eyes, You're safe with me, Lil. I hate to say this, but I didn't totally believe it. I went with him because I could see that he believed it, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I'll walk over here, I said, and headed for the side of the yard away from the dog. Poppy laughed, and we spent the next hour digging holes and planting stuff and watering with the hose. The dog stared at us for a while, but then went sniffing around his own yard. I have to admit, we never heard another peep out of it. I don't care. I told Poppy that as long as that beast is next door, my new life isn't going to be happening in his backyard. Jake. When we showed up at the hideout this morning, the first thing we noticed was the dirt. The Bump versus Super Goober score was gone. Scuffed away totally. Looks like Bump's back from vacation, said Nacho. Burke pointed his sneaker toe at a couple of heel holes. I guess he didn't think our little joke was too funny. We rode past his house. We didn't see him. We hung out front for a little while, staring at the windows. No sign of anybody. Maybe he's not back from vacation, I said. Maybe somebody else scratched it out. Burke sneered. Yeah, right. Maybe he's in there, said Nacho. All we gotta do is knock. But nobody did. We rode off. Nobody said, let's go to Soup's, but our bikes seemed to be heading there anyway. We were still a couple blocks away when Burke suddenly said, Stop! Burke had the best eyes, but it didn't take long for me and Nacho to catch up. The shack, visible from outer space, was gone. Well, not completely gone. It was now in a pile, a jagged, splashy pile of colors, like pickup sticks. Holy crap, said Burke. Lily, Poppy is better at getting a life than I am. He just got a job, part time mornings, at the rec center watching preschool kids. I only thought ladies did that stuff. He gave me a key to the house so I can still go over in the mornings when I want. I sat in the house alone today in the new easy chair. The new TV was right in front of me, but I didn't turn it on. I stared at the deck of cards in the middle of the table. I was feeling lonely, but not because I was alone. I feel lonely even when there's people around. When Poppy came home from work, we had lunch together. We played poker. Long ago, I cleaned him out of beetles. Now our money is pistachio nuts. He lets me cheat all I want, but it's hardly fun anymore. It's getting harder and harder for even Poppy to make me happy. As much as I love my grandpa, he can't replace my twin brother. Things that never used to be questions are questions now. What is Jake doing? What is he thinking? How is he feeling? What's he writing in the journal today? The answers keep hitting me like a smack in the face. I don't know. I don't know. I'm dreading our birthday. It's coming up soon. I'm scared it's going to be different. I'm scared we won't meet at the train station that night. It's going to be the test. It's going to be the final answer. I know it, and I'm terrified it's going to be the wrong answer. Because in spite of everything that's happened, in spite of the way I talk, the way I feel, there's still a little crumb of hope somewhere inside of me, a little crumb that whispers, hey, if he shows up at the station, then you're still cool. It's not so bad after all. But if he doesn't show up, it would mean our Goombla is gone. Totally. It will mean I'm right. But I don't want to be right. I want to be wrong. I'm terrified. And I'm lost. For the first time in my life, I feel lost. I wasn't lost that day at the beach. Not this never lost twin. Last year, you could have dropped me in the middle of the Amazon jungle and I wouldn't have been lost. But I am now. I'm lonely and I'm scared and I'm lost. Jake. Eyes open, eyes shut. Makes no difference. I keep seeing it. Pick up sticks. Lily. I went to the Cool It room, where I'd once been so happy. Joe the gorilla sat on the rocking chair, still grinning at me. I walked around, touched things, remembered. The Monopoly board was on the floor, stopped in the middle of the game we never finished. Jake's top hat was sitting on boardwalk. So were red hotels. Guess he was winning. Most of all, it was the walls that got to me, two of them. From the floor to as high as two little kids could reach were filled with tic-tac-toe games. I cried. I got my pillow and my stuffed watermelon and a blanket to lie on. I'll sleep here tonight. Jake. Is it our fault? Leaving that 10-0 score in the dirt for Bump to see? Did that push him over the edge? What did we think? Did we think Bump was just going to laugh it off? Bump Stubbins? Who said, he's gonna pay? Who said, this is the last day as a happy goober? That Bump Stubbins? Soup in giant letters. The paint jobs, the ripped out plank. And what did all that do to the goober? Absolutely nothing. The more Bump did, the more Soup laughed. And the more Soup laughed, the madder Bump got. And then he comes home from vacation and sees the score in the dirt in the hideout. What do we expect? Why are we surprised? Which brings me back to the beginning. Is it our fault? Lily. In the Cool It room last night, in the dark, I heard a train whistle. So sad and far away, like it was lost, calling for its mate. Where are you? Where are you? Wait for me. Jake. It feels like I should go over there, but why? What would I say to him, to his mother? She was nice to us, to me especially. Her name is Heather, but I'm not going over. Lily. One more day until July 29th, the big B. I'll be at the station. He won't. One more day till the end of my life as I know it. Jake. Ernie. Heather. That's all. We don't even know their last name. I was thinking this when the guys showed up on my porch this morning, including Bump. Let's go, Jaco, he said. He seemed like his old self, the same old, bold boss of the death rays. He held a fist high. He fired a what? Howitzer of black licorice spit. I'm back and I'm ready to rumble. No sign that he even knew about the situation. I couldn't help thinking, maybe he didn't do it after all. Burke and Nacho were staring off into space. I didn't even have time to wish we weren't heading for Meeker Street because that's exactly where Bump led us. Okay, I thought, have it be cleared away by at least have it be cleared away by now. Just an empty yard. No luck. From a couple blocks away, I could see not a thing had changed. The bright rubble of colors pick up sticks. Hey, what happened? Said Bump. Nobody said anything. Nobody knew exactly what game we were playing. Was Bump acting? Was he innocent? Bump hit the brakes. He said it again. What happened? It was obvious we weren't going another inch until he got the answer. He was looking at me. Looks like somebody trashed the shack, I garfed out. Bump gazed down the street. His eyes got all wondery. Wow, really? Yeah, I said. Who did it? He said. Maybe the same person who did the paint job and tore out the plank, I thought. Beats me, I said. He blinked. Some of the most innocent blinks I ever saw. He leaned onto a pedal. Let's go see, he said. We pulled up to the curb. No sign of anyone. Nobody home, said Nacho. Let's motor. Wait a sec, said Bump. Wait a sec. He leaned on his handlebars, staring at the heap. The only thing I could read on his face was curiosity. As I was praying, please don't let her be looking out the windows, the back screen door creaked and Soup came out. And in that split instant I knew goobers are not invincible. For the first time ever, he was not smiling. He was not waving hi, guys. He wasn't even wearing his orange hat. He came out to us. He looked in our eyes. See what somebody did? He said. In his face, I saw massive sadness. And yet there wasn't a clue of a tear in his cheek, not a quiver in his lip. Goobers are brave, I thought. Wow, said Bump, wagging his head. And it was such an awesome clubhouse, too. What are you going to do now? Soup didn't hesitate. Rebuild. Bump scoffed. Rebuild? That's dumb. They'll just do it again. You should go find who did it and beat him up. He said this with a totally straight face. I don't beat people up, said Soup. Bump boggled. Really? You don't? Not ever? Not ever, said Soup, all serious, as if he could beat up somebody if he wanted to. His arms were the size of straws, like mine. And of course, goobers don't fight anyway. Well, maybe you should, said Bump, whose body is the opposite of Soup, thick and chesty. Catch that guy and teach him a lesson. I noticed that Soup was no longer paying attention to Bump. He was staring at the heap. When he turned back to us, his eyes were glittery. Why? He said. This took Bump by surprise. Huh? Why? Said Soup. Why what? Said Bump. Why would somebody do this? The worst part of the question was that he was looking at all of us, asking us all. The answer finally came from Bump, and it practically blew me off my bike. Maybe because somebody can't stand goobers. The world stopped. Soup's eyes were as big as bike tires. You could see them coming into focus. He blinked. Bump? He pointed. You. His voice was flat and hard as a 2x4. You did it. Ha! Bump laughed. Then his face went blank. No, I didn't. Yes, said Soup, you did. You took a step forward. He took a step forward. I was amazed. This was not the Soup I knew. Bump rolled his bike under the curb. They were inches apart. You calling me a liar, Soup? Soup nodded, all serious, as if he were answering in a question in class. Yes. Bump opened his mouth and let his licorice wad drop onto Soup's sneaker. While Soup was looking down at the sneaker, Bump sucker shoved him hard. Soup went lurching backward, skinny arms windmilling. He landed on his butt halfway into the yard. He popped up and came charging, fury in his eyes, his hand balled into bony little fists. He was screaming. Just before he got to Gump, I threw out my hands. Stop! I yelled. I did it! Lily. Last night I had a dream. I was falling. I wasn't scared, but I had two other feelings, surprise and disappointment, because I expected somebody to catch me and it wasn't happening, so I kept falling. Tonight is the night. I'm afraid to go to sleep. Jake. Why did I do it? As he was landing on his butt, popping up and charging, there wasn't a thought in my head. It was like I was somebody else. Somebody else's arms were pushing out and somebody else's voice yelling, Stop! I did it! The best answer I can come up with is that I must have taken pity on him because he was about to get destroyed. Maybe I figured the only way to save the stupid goober from himself was to take the heat off Bump. But really, what would Bump have done? He'd have bopped the goober once in the nose, and the goober would have gone crying and running into the house, and we'd never ride back to Meeker Street again, and that would be that. So if I had to do it over, would I? No way. Because the worst that would have happened would have been one bloody nose, and that would have been cheap compared to the price I started to pay as soon as I said those words. I'll never forget that face. It turned from bump to me. What I remember most is how slow it turned, and then the eyes, the fury drained out of them. What took place is something I hope I never have to see again. It was shock, pure shock. It came with a terrible one word question. Jake? That word. That look punched a hole right through me. At that moment, I hated my own name. And since he said it with a question mark, I guess was my test, my chance to laugh and say, just kidding, you're right, it was bump. But time ran out. Pencils up! And the shock on his face was changing to something even worse. Hurt. I've seen hurt before. Who hasn't? But this was a whole other kind of hurt. This was somebody else's hurt aimed at me. No other words were said. The death rays were just gawking at me like, huh? As for the kid, he just seemed to slump away into nothingness. I mean, it wasn't just a shoulder slump, his whole body slumped. In fact, if he had a glass chest, I think it would have seen his heart and his lungs and his kidneys slumping too. Pretty soon, nothing was left but those eyes. Stop looking at me like that. I wanted to scream, and then he turned and went into the house. We rode away. The only one who asked me about it was Nacho. Why'd you do it, man? I just shrugged. Nobody mentioned it again. Lily. I woke up at the train station, but that was all. No blinding light, train through me, green. No smell of pickles, no Jake. Like always, I was in my pajamas. The cement platform was cool under my bare feet. The platform and tracks were lit from high lamps above both ends of the station. The shadow of the roof edge split the platform into day and night. I could hardly see the benches. The station windows were black. I squinted into the shadows. I whispered, Jake, you there? I went to the edge of the platform. The night swallowed up the tracks left and right. My toes hung over the cool, hard edge. Jake! I yelled, Jake! I don't know how long I stood there. I kept thinking, maybe he's just late. I heard something behind me. I turned. The station door was opening, a shadow moving through the shadows. Jake? I said. The shadow spoke. The things I do for my grandkids. Poppy? He came into the light. He was groggy, slumpy. He looked at his watch. He mumbled something. I think it was 3 o'clock. The only awake part of him was his eyes. They stared at me. He reached out and poked me in the shoulder twice. What was going on? I was getting worried. Poppy? I said. Why are you here? Did something bad happen? You could say that, he murmured. I fell asleep. He looked around. He's not here? No, I said. He looked down at me. No. He palmed the top of my head. Sorry, kid. Poppy! I screeched. Why are you here? He took a deep breath. In case this was going to happen, I thought somebody ought to be here. He shouldn't be alone. He looked around again. He looked at his watch again. Maybe he's just late. I screamed, There is no late. I lost it. My life is over. I wailed. I crumbled to the ground. He picked me up. I'm too old to be carried now, but I didn't fight it. He took me to his bike. He helped seat me on the bar in front of him and pedaled off. He grumbled, Gotta get a car. The last thing I remember is clinging like an octopus to him as he lugged me up the stairs to my bedroom. I had the falling dream again. Nobody was catching me. I must have been grogging around my room for a couple of minutes before I saw the sign. It was scotch taped to the closed door. Mom does it every year. Now that my sister and I have our own rooms, I guess she did one for each of us. Homemade, white paper, red letters sprinkled with glitter. Happy birthday. That's when it hit me. I just woke up in my bed, not the train station. I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I wondered if my sister was there. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she's outgrowing that magical twin stuff too. Maybe it was nothing more than that favorite word of grown-ups, a phase. No party this year, just family, which now includes Poppy. Of course, Dad had to set up a stepladder in the driveway and plant the adorable twins next to it and take our picture to show how we're growing up the ladder year by year. You're way past the fourth grade, for the fourth rung now, said Dad. Heading for the top, said Mom. Need a bigger ladder soon, said Poppy. My best present was 5 stones from Poppy. He collected them in his travels just for me. Lily got a Gray Shadow Crime Stoppers kit. She didn't exactly look thrilled. She slept till noon. We were supposed to go to the water park, but we didn't because she said her stomach hurt. She didn't say a word to me all day. Whatever, I had my own problems. How was I supposed to enjoy my birthday when all I could see was Ernie's eyes? Those grown ups grinning at me? I wanted to say, you wouldn't be grinning if you knew what a rat I am. In my room at night, a question came in the dark. Why do you even care what a goober thinks about you? There was no answer.